Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is Four Paws in a Book. I make bookish videos over here on my little corner of the internet, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite genre blends. If you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, a genre blend is just that. It's a blend of two genres joined into one book. And I think that they're really fascinating. I think that it's such a change of pace from, say, a classic fantasy story when you add some sci-fi elements in or you add some romance in. Now, to me, to be a true genre blend, it should be pretty close to like a half and half, or maybe like a 60-40, 65-35 kind of split. It should have a good chunk of both things. And it has to be well meshed together and weaved in together simultaneously. It shouldn't feel awkward or stilted. And that's how you can tell a good genre blend from one that is only subpar. So I have some genre blends that I want to talk to you about that are a wide variety of different genres. And so if you are also interested in picking up a genre blend book, maybe I have some suggestions for you. Let's start with what I think is the easiest genre blend, and that is fantasy romance. Fantasy romance is definitely entering its era right now. There are so many people reading fantasy romances, and there are so many good fantasy romance books that are coming out that are really gaining in popularity. The really popular ones obviously being Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, which is a dragon school but also does have a pretty substantial romance in it. And then of course Carissa Broadbent. Can't say fantasy romance without Carissa Broadbent. Serpent and the Wings of Night is a vampire romance, but with a lot of courtroom politics in it. And then my personal favorite is Daughter of No Worlds, and this is about a girl who was sold into slavery, and she works off her debt, tries to get freed, or basically buy her own freedom. That doesn't work. Ends up killing her slaver because her magic manifests, and then she goes to the order to try to protect the rest of her people that are still enslaved, and she's trying to use them to protect her people. And then of course there's a grumpy sunshine kind of romance. This one's fantastic. This one's my favorite, although Serpent is definitely a really popular one. And then if you're looking for a ton of smut, we have Court of a Vampire Queen by Katie Robert. This is actually an omnibus of I think three stories, 3 novellas together, but this is about a girl who gets sold to a vampire as part of a political alliance. Turns out there are 3 vampires, and it's a fun time. Fun time is had by all. This one is very much mostly smut. Fantasy can also be combined with other genres. It doesn't have to just be romance to have a good genre blend. One that's on the upper scale of YA is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland, and this is a fantasy horror. And this is about a girl who is a blood mage. There are zombies in this book, and she ends up going down into almost basically the depths of hell, essentially. And then there also is a romance in here, so it's kind of a genre blend of the 3. This book is poly, it is queer, it is fantastic. Then a couple of books with fantasy and sci-fi combined. First up is Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. This is one of my favorite series of all times. I love this. Still need to finish the last book, but that's fine. I will get to that. But this is what is known as a gay fantasy Star Wars, but there are definitely some technological elements to it. There are modern weapons and ships and things like that, but it is set in a fantastical world. This is a book about a brother and sister. The sister was taken away by what essentially is the Empire, and the brother is fighting against the Empire to try to get his sister back. Obviously there's much more involved in it because it's 3 chunky books, but this is fantastic. And then if you wanted to actually go to the source, I do believe that the Star Wars novels would be a good blend between fantasy and sci-fi. So obviously it's known as a sci-fi story, but there is still some sort of magic with the Force. So my favorite in the series that I have read so far is Path of Deceit by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland. This is YA, but it is kind of on the upper YA scale, and this is kind of in the extended universe of Star Wars. Essentially, this planet has created a religion around the Force and is scared of the Force, and I thought that that was such a brilliant way to do that. So I would consider all of the Star Wars novels to be genre blends, especially if they are ones that are dealing with the Force. Now let's move all the way into sci-fi and talk about some sci-fi horror books that I've really loved. First up, Into the Drowning Deep by Mara Grant. There's also a prequel novella for this one as well, that is Rolling in the Deep, I believe. That's kind of the same story. And this is about killer mermaids. This is about a science team that is trying to find the wreckage of a ship that went down because they were looking for the killer mermaids, and then guess what? The killer mermaids show up. This is a terrifying book, especially if you like deep sea horror. Darcy Coates also has a couple of those like sci-fi horror books. I have not read them yet, but I've heard good things about them. But Parasite and From Below. But speaking of Darcy Coates, we do have Voices in the Snow, and this is kind of a genre blend between what I thought was horror and romance, but then there was definitely some sci-fi elements involved, especially as you get later on into the series. This is a 4-book series, and it was fantastic. I read this book in 24 hours and I was hooked. This is such a fast-paced thriller about a woman who gets stuck in a cabin in the snow, and it has a very like Quiet Place feel to it. If you've seen that movie, you'll understand the reference. But yeah, I don't want to go into a lot of details because it definitely, like, telling you about the sci-fi element of it definitely spoils definitely the end of this book and like future books as well as we get more into it. Just trust me on that. And lastly, if you're looking for a good old sci-fi thriller, might I recommend Blake Crouch to you. I only have Recursion and Upgrade, but also I think Dark Matter is his best. Although I have been told that the first Blake Crouch you read is your favorite one. Dark Matter was that for me. So Dark Matter deals with alternate timelines and like multiverse issues. Recursion deals with memory loss and having alternate memories, and then Upgrade deals with like DNA sequencing. So all very science-based, but all definitely thrillery. So those are some books that I love that are genre blends. Let me know down in the comments below a genre blend that you really enjoyed. We will have a full-on recommendations list in the comments. If you're not feeling chatty, I just discovered there's a kangaroo emoji, so do that one. Why not? That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.